What is up, y'all? We are here for Keke's interview with Olandria. This was actually, I like this. I thought it was good. We didn't get too much of anything that I'm pretty sure a lot of people wanted to hear, at least was the response to that Girls Call Her Dangerous podcast. But as we all know, this was filmed prior to that coming out. Which I'm happy that we didn't get the response here because we can save that for the reunion. Because I really want to see how a lot of people hold her accountable in that instance. And I'm glad because Chelley and Olandria, they need a moment to where they can have an interview where they can put it out, get a little bit of their side of the story out where they feel safe to do so. And I feel like this is what it was. I know it was more like a conversation. Like, shout out to Jamie, that's me. Like she said in her recap of it, it was more so like a conversation than an interview per se, which I feel was needed for the both of those girls. They needed to be able to sit down and have a conversation with somebody that understands their experience, understands what it is to be a black woman on TV and TV spaces where certain things just don't get perceived the way that they should be, considering the fact that they are black women. So I felt like this was just a little fun refresher, and I have my notes, I have my thoughts, and I'm gonna give it to y'all. But shout out to y'all as always for showing me so much love. Y'all blew that hoodie video up. Like, y'all blew it up. Shout out to y'all for showing so much love. Do the same on here, because I want the girls to get the same amount of energy that y'all gave on that very, very irritating one. But I want y'all to give these girls love, show love for me too, because I'm gonna be protecting these black women, just like I'm gonna be protecting the black men too, because that's my duty. That's what I'm here for, and I appreciate all of y'all for showing me that love, like letting me know how important it is for me to get on here and do this, because I'm gonna always do that. I'm gonna always do that, because if you're new to me, you don't know that. But if you're not new to me, you know I don't play about my culture. I don't. And it's my duty to get on here and use my voice to do that. And I appreciate all of y'all that are not black. Like, a lot of my white brothers and sisters that are down here, all of my other people that are from other cultures, I appreciate how y'all understand where I'm coming from. Understand and at least appreciate the fact that I'm being able to vocalize what I feel in the moment. And y'all are actually seeing it for what it is too. And that's the type of people I want around. And it's like, y'all don't get it confused that just because I am being so pro-black and speaking on the issues that we face in life, I appreciate the fact that y'all are appreciating and taking the time to understand me and us for what we're speaking on and what needs to be said. So those of y'all that do appreciate it, I appreciate y'all so much. Y'all are the people that I do want around me. The ones that don't get it and don't want to get it, y'all aren't meant to be here. So you'll get blocked too. But shout out to everybody as always for just understanding me, understanding what I'm here for. And yeah, let's get into it. Let's go. All right, so we start off with Keke pretty much thanking them for coming on. This is their first interview post-show, like their first real interview. Like, they did the show interviews that the show had set up, but this is their first time actually talking to somebody on their own accord. But she ends up asking them, like, what did they first do when they got their phones? Olandria said she did a big group FaceTime with her family back at home. Chelley hit the group chat whenever she finally was able to get to it, because she said when she got on her phone, obviously everything just started popping up that she already had set. And yeah, she got to see her family, and she was asking, just catching up on them and whatever, and seeing so much other things coming out. But Keke then asked them if they've talked to therapists getting out of the show. Like, did the show set up for y'all to actually talk to therapists? Which is a good question, because I feel like the shows, not just this show, but any reality show, I feel like they should have that set up. Like, once they leave the show, have them talk to somebody. And I feel like it's super important, especially in our culture as black people. Y'all know, black people, we are kind of conditioned to not really talk out our issues. And if we do have those issues, to kind of like get through it. It is super important. And I'm a big advocate when it comes to therapy, not just within black people in general, but just people in general. There's something that is so important about actually talking to somebody that doesn't know who you are. And when I say doesn't know who you are, they don't know you from a can of paint. So when you come and actually talk to them about your issues, you should feel comfortable, because you're going to get somebody's opinion that is not biased. Like, talking to certain people that you do know, they could come to you with a biased opinion in regards to what's happening. And it's important to talk to somebody that is going to give you the truth. And when I say give you the truth, give you things that are actually going to be beneficial to you. So yeah, I'm glad that she asked that question. Chelley did state that her experience coming out was different than Olandria's, obviously, because she's been out for a little bit. Not a long time, because she literally left the day before. But she stated that she got out early. Keke's reaction to that, she ended up stating that it wouldn't make any sense how, because when Chelley was talking about how she got out early, Keke's reaction was like, Because, like, why were you and Ace sent home when Chris and Huda literally broke up? Pretty much the same reaction that we had about Chelley and Ace getting sent home right before the finals when there were couples there that should have went home before them. That was Keke's reaction, which I was like, exactly. But Chelley stated that she was happy to go, but they did meet with a therapist, and Keke ends up asking if, what did they say? She asked if they, hold on, let me read my notes. Keke ended up asking them about like how their response was and how the producers pretty much told them how to respond to social media and stuff. And Chelley and Olandria both were like, we were advised that everything on this season has pretty much really magnified. Like, it blew up a little bit. And they both were like, yeah, we knew season 6 kind of blew up, but they didn't know that their season really blew up. Like, season 6 blew up and really put the show on the map, but it blew season 7 up even more, which was not for the better, truthfully. If you ask me, it's not for the better, because it brought a lot of people over that ruined the show. And when I say ruined, it brought a lot of racism over to the show. And it did heighten and magnify what the season is. But Keke then moves to mentioning how tough it was for us to see the racial remarks that both of them have been receiving. And she ends up asking, like, what have their families been saying? And Olandria states that she didn't understand the response. Like, getting out, she didn't understand why her and Chelley were getting those type of responses, and neither were we. And Keke ends up bringing up the BuzzFeed article. If y'all didn't already know, BuzzFeed put out a post pretty much talking about Chelley needed a knuckle sandwich. And it's like, for what? For what? And then the picture that they had were white knuckles too. It just doesn't look right. It doesn't look right. So Chelley then states that she saw a lot of people defending them too, more so than seeing the hate initially. But it got to the point where she didn't even want to see the hate, so she tried to avoid it. But she did find out about the BuzzFeed knuckle sandwich, and she was confused too. She's like, what would I need that for? And where is it coming from? But Chelley then states that her family was devastated just hearing about it and seeing everything. But seeing the support meant so much to her, especially seeing Keke defending them. And she states how much it means to her to see black women and black men using their voice, using their platforms to do this, which is why I make it a point every single day, and have made it a point every single day, just for this show, not just this show, but just in general. Anytime I see that injustice, I'm going to talk about it. I don't care who's upset about it. And if you get upset about it, you need to look deeper within yourself, because if it's happening out here and you choose to not see it, try not to address it, you're the problem. And I'm never going to shut up for it. I'm never going to shut up. Anytime I see it, I'm going to mention it. And if you feel uncomfortable, that's your own problem. But Keke then tells them how much they represented. And they did. They represented themselves very, very well. They represented for the black community, for black women. They did it in the best way that they could. So good for them. But she then mentions how Olandria essentially was so reserved, but she really loved how when Olandria kind of stepped outside of what the norm is for black women, how they're accustomed to pretty much moving in instances in life, how Olandria kind of was reserved, but she started to kind of knock down her walls and get herself a little bit more vulnerable. And Keke appreciated that. And she talked about how Olandria made it a point to let it be known with Taylor that she was interested in him, which is not normal in black culture. But Olandria then states that she didn't want to come in with old habits that she had, but now in hindsight, obviously she's thinking like, I wish I didn't do that per se, because as we all know, Taylor was not interested in her, but she didn't know that. But Keke then gives her flowers for doing what she felt, because she essentially left the show with no regrets. Like, she did everything to the best of her ability, had the full experience, even though I do feel like she might have regretted some things, but we'll get to it. We then moved to what made both of them want to be on Love Island. And they both were worried about getting on the show and not having some fine shit. They was worried about the fact that they didn't have somebody that they were going to be there, and somebody there just wasn't for them. Even though they found what was for them. But as we all know, we said it throughout the entire season, the bombshells and the people that they brought in could have been better. Not on the women's side. The women, they always do well with the women, like especially the black women. But Chelley then stated that she wanted to come on last season because they had approached her last season, but she watched season 6. Well, she didn't want to come on last season. That's when she kind of got introduced to the show. She watched season 6, and that made her want to come on this season. So she was reached out to last season. We found out Olandria was reached out to the last 3 seasons, and she had been single for 5 years, and she was like, I finally decided I was going to do it this year after that 3rd time reaching out. And they were glad that they were OGs, because it never gave Casa Girl energy or Bombshell energy. They could be bombshells in terms of just the way that they look, the energy they possess, but they definitely give off Main Girl Villa. Like, they made sure they were meant to be there from point A to point end, basically. So they were in agreement with that. They were happy that they were OGs. They start talking about how when they two were the first two to walk in, and how they pretty much talked about throughout the entire experience how they were the first two to walk in and essentially made it all the way to the end. So it was good to see that too. Keke talks about how her and her makeup artist were talking about how bad they were, like the two of them walking in, which y'all know we've been stating it all season. Like them two girls are... they about as close to perfect as you're going to get when it comes to just physicality, especially as people too. I love how grounded they are as human beings. I love how they don't change who they are. I just love, they're beautiful from the inside out. And I feel like it's important to note that, because a lot of people, no matter how much y'all want to spin the narrative when it comes to these two women, they're not what people want them to be. They're not. And I'm glad that they stay true to who they are. But then we move to their family's thoughts about what's been going on. And Chelley's family was super supportive. They just wanted her to be wholesome, be on there and be pure. That's what her dad said. And she was like, do you know what type of show I'm coming on? Like, basically being wholesome and pure is not what you really going to see on Love Island. As we all know, Love Island can teeter the soft PORN line in terms of the challenges and what you're doing on the show. But they were supportive of her going on the show. Keke then says, like, you still gave off wholesome, though, which she did. Like, in the challenges and stuff, she definitely showed the side that we want to see. But she also, throughout the entire experience, outside of the challenges, Chelley was classy, just completely. And I wouldn't even say in the challenges she wasn't classy. Like, she was classy through and through, and that's just really what it was. Keke gave her flowers with that. They start talking about the questionnaires that you have to fill out during the beginning of the process of getting on the show, and how that kind of translated into the challenges, where they were like, how did y'all realize this certain information? And then they realized the questionnaires. So Keke then ends up asking if they thought some of the guys were lying on their questionnaires, which, as y'all know, I already done said a couple of them were. And they were like, yeah. And Keke was like, yeah, Austin with them 1,000 bodies. Olandria was like, he's not lying. I still believe he was lying. Like, somebody that moves the way he does in the villa, and not just with Chelley, with Jaden, with Amaya, he never really stood his ground when it came to those women. Like, Ace was easy to pull certain women away from him. Nick was trying to pull Jaden from him. I feel like Nick would have pulled Jaden from him if Jaden actually wanted Nick. Austin doesn't give off like that dominant energy. And if you got 1,000 bodies, you got to have some type of pull. And he didn't really have much pull in the game. Like, he literally got Chelley because Ace was stolen from Chelley. That is how he got Chelley and had Chelley for the rest of that time. That is why he didn't pull Chelley. He didn't get her to the point where she wanted to commit to him. Same with Jaden, same with Amaya. They just happened to come to him because they had no other options. That's really what it was, if you ask me. But we then moved to start talking about Austin, and Keke was like asking Chelley, like, was there any real romance there? Did you really feel it for Austin like that? Or was he just like fun to be around? And Chelley was like, yeah, he was fun to be around. And she was like, she claimed that he was handsome, whatever. But Olandria then told her how she told Chelley to tell Keke how she came to the realization that she actually was really feeling Austin. And Chelley was like, it was one moment where she was on the toilet and was just randomly thinking about the moments that they had shared together, came out and told Olandria, I really like him like that. It's crazy how she really liked him like that. I was shocked. And Keke was so all over the place. We went from certain points. It was no like real like structure of events. Y'all know how I like to tell stuff as it happens. Keke was just bouncing back. So she ends up asking Chelley how it felt leaving the villa when they got eliminated. And Chelley was like, it was bittersweet. It's like, yeah, I'm sad to leave them, but I found my person, so I can't really be that sad, which is what I stated. Like, if you really are there for love, no matter when you leave, as long as you found that connection and found that person that you want to at least explore outside of the villa, you didn't lose. So you shouldn't be upset. And that's just pretty much where she was at with that. But she stated, like, we all had the conversation, even though we didn't know that there was going to be an elimination. We was like, if there is one, no tears, no crying. We're going to see each other in a couple of days anyways. But Chelley then stated that she never has cried so much on the show, which I wanted to mention that because we never saw that. The only time we really saw Chelley crying was when Olandria went home. I think it was the night when Charlie went home too. But that was it. So to hear that she was crying so much, it just proves how much the producers manipulate situations. Just like how they try to show Chelley and Olandria in a different light, and how they tried to give Huda this redemption arc when we know there was no redemption there. It just proves how the show manipulates things and then try to purposely show these ladies in a different light. Even though those of us with a brain saw through it, it just is quite interesting to see how they tried to victimize Huda when it came to the tears, her crying, trying to make her seem like a victim. Whereas when these black women are showing their vulnerability, none of that's being shown. You just want to show them as stoic all the time. You want to show them as just not really having any emotions. But whenever we find out that they actually were crying and being vulnerable, it's crazy how we didn't see that. And y'all want to talk about race is not involved. Come on, be for real. But we then move to Olandria with Taylor. She ends up asking like why he was the first person that she really wanted. And Keke says like, I said Keke. Olandria said that she liked him. No, Keke said this. Keke said she liked Taylor too because he just gave off like a natural, normal human vibe. Not like this influencer, I'm on TV, which is what we are. That's what I was excited at first whenever they first started. The first episode, their first conversation, I really enjoyed it because they were bouncing off each other. It just felt like some real Southern people having a conversation, just meeting each other on TV. So I understand why she felt that natural liking to why they wanted to be together, at least why she wanted it to work. And Olandria says, like, yeah, I expressed to Chelley, like, I love country men. I'm from the South. We value those same things. And just being a woman from the South, that's what she kind of wanted. But she then states, too, that when she first saw him come in and saw him with that cowboy hat, Chelley was like, that's your dude, girl. And she was like, yeah, you're right. So she then mentions how she had went with him because he was sweet, nice to the girls, paid so much attention to detail, all this stuff that we did not see, which throughout this entire interview, it started to make sense to me that we didn't see a lot of what really was happening when it came to her and Taylor. Like what we saw, it looks like, damn, why are you not seeing this? But hearing what she's stating, hearing what Chelley is backing her up on, hearing what other people have stated, it's clear that we were missing certain things. Like he was laying it on thick when it came to Olandria, to where she just thought everything was what it was when what they showed us was the stuff that they wanted to show us. So it's real interesting. It makes me look at Olandria differently in the way that she moved when it came to Taylor. But she stated all of that. Keke ends up asking, like, when thinking back on it now, we saw the connections and the challenges that you and Nick had, like how y'all had a lot of chemistry in the challenges. So what happened around the house that we might have missed that made y'all get to the point where y'all are now? And Olandria said, looking back at the edits and stuff, it was like the signs were there, but in the villa, she just wasn't seeing it, which is like what I was stating. Like I wasn't seeing it either. But Keke then says, she then asked about how Ace didn't want people touching on him except for Chelley. So she then moves to this. Like Keke was just bouncing. But Chelley was like, I mean, it's not like he doesn't like people touching him. She was like, he's a hugger and he's always giving everybody around the villa hugs. Olandria vouches for her. Keke then asked like how it's been now since leaving the show with you and Ace. And Chelley says that she's been with Ace the entire time. Keke's geeked about it. And Chelley's like, that's my man. That's my man. So Keke ends up talking about how the internet was pretty much talking about how they've been dating before the show, pretty much thinking that y'all were scamming. And Chelley then says it's crazy because like a lot of them on this season knew of each other, at least knew each other or knew of each other. And she ends up talking about how her and Ace had only met that one time. They met that one time. Obviously, when you meet somebody, you could end up getting their social medias and keeping in contact with them from there. And that's pretty much what she stated. She was like, I knew Amaya and Andrina before the show. Keke started joking about how everybody turned their accents on when it came to Andrina. And they were like, yeah, because she don't play by her name. Let me try and state it because I've been saying Andrina the entire time. What is it? Andreina? I might have said it right. But you get it. She don't play by her name, which I don't blame her. It's your name. Correct them. But we get back to Taylor. And Keke ends up asking if Chelley had felt Taylor was leading Olandria on. And then asked like how quickly it changed when it came to Clark. And Chelley was like, yeah, me and Taylor were close. Like close throughout the show. He would always come to her asking for advice when it came to Olandria. And she had thought that he was genuinely interested in Olandria. So she was shocked when it came to Clark, how things just looked so differently. So Olandria then states too that she is not typically the type to be head over heels for somebody that does not see it for her, isn't physically attracted to her. And she says like, I would have never gone so hard if I knew that, which just makes things even more clear. Like what I stated in the stand on business stuff, how a lot of people said that she made herself look stupid. No, it'd be one thing if he was completely honest, straight up about not liking her and she continued to pursue him. It was clear there that he still kept trying to string her along. And then to hear that it still was that we didn't see on TV, which is why I stated she didn't look stupid. I feel like people tried to make it seem like she did, but I don't think she did. It was something that she should have stated in the moment, because at this point, you are playing with me, because we did see him literally in that same episode say that he still was interested in her, just to then turn around and act like I have an aha moment, like I'm a choose Clark yet again. But if that was the case, you should have stood on that when you first chose her. When you first chose her, you should have stood on that then, instead of still continuing to tell Olandria that you still wanted to get to know her, knowing that you didn't. So that's why I was like, Olandria didn't look stupid. If anything, Taylor did. And Keke talks about how she pretty much kept her cool so long, and whenever she let it be known at the Stand on Business Challenge, she enjoyed it. And she was like, she asked her, like, what made you get to the point where you wanted to finally just state how you felt? And Olandria said, like, I got tired of just being the strong black woman, the strong woman, which I feel like my feelings were overlooked, which they were. And she was like, since I wasn't sitting around crying to people, they thought that I essentially could take it because I'm this strong woman, but I'm also human at the end of the day, and I can only take so much, which is true. Like, it's crazy. But she then says, like, her and Chelley had talked, and Taylor pretty much vocalized to her that he wanted to still keep her there and wanted to continue to explore her, which completely contradicts what he stated in that Stand on Business shit. When he sat there and tried to say, well, I'm not moving for you, I'm not moving for you. So if you weren't moving for her, then why did you tell her that you was doing stuff to keep her there? That's why I stated she did not look stupid. He tried to make her look stupid, but y'all got to read between the lines. Like, there are certain things that you see on the show that could be hidden, but the stuff that you see also happens too. So for him to sit there and act like he wasn't moving for her while sitting there telling her that you still want to get to know her, and to hear that you have been telling her that you wanted to keep her there when you sat there and said that you weren't trying to keep her there, that's the stuff that makes Olandria not look all the way silly. Because it's like, you are playing with me, essentially. Even though she still could have saw the signs, but then to hear that he still was doing the things behind the scenes that would make her think that he was still interested in her. So it's just like, can you really be all the way mad at Olandria for that? But she then states that, Chelley then states that he had stated that he was open to still talking to both Clark and Olandria. So she kept watering that connection. But Olandria then states too that he still kept stating that. So when he wasn't doing it, that was when I was like, oh, I'm gonna clock your shit now because you keep playing with me. So Keke then says, like, she's fine with him getting to know Clark. She was, but it's just the nature of how he went about it. Because, I mean, it's like the show, he's doing what he's supposed to on the show, but he just moved in regards to actually having respect for Clark, but did not have that same respect for Olandria, which was the big issue with Taylor. That's why I feel like a lot of people were not a fan of Taylor and are not a fan of Taylor, is because the way he moved with Clark is proof that you actually can and know how to move with respect. And it's like, why couldn't you do that to Olandria? If you knew that Olandria was not your type, was not the one that you wanted, why sit there and act like you wanted to be with her instead of just keeping it real with her, instead of making her look stupid on TV because she's sitting here pining after you, all the while not knowing that you really don't see it for her. So Keke then moves to talking about how pissed off America was when Olandria was almost sent home those couple times. And Olandria was like, yeah, when I was dumped from Casa Amor, I thought America was not going to like this shit, even though I didn't know how America really felt about me. Just something in my spirit told me they don't play about me. And it's true. America don't play about you. A lot of America don't play about you. But Keke then moves to when Nick had started pretty much calling her the most beautiful woman, making his move when they came back from Casa Amor. And she ends up asking, what were you thinking knowing that Nick was basically Taylor's best friend and he also was involved with your girl Sierra? Like, what was going through your mind? Olandria was like, in the moment, I believed it in a sense because, like, how he was always choosing me in the challenges. Like, there has to be something to why you're continuing to choose me. So she then states that she was thinking about it, but she closed herself off from really experiencing, really feeling what she was feeling because she didn't want to pretty much disrespect Taylor and Sierra. And she stated, too, that she just felt like, just from previous experiences being from Alabama, people that look like Nick don't typically like women that look like her. So she didn't think that she was his type, and kind of wrote that off, even though he kept reiterating to her how much he actually did want her. But Keke then states that then y'all was making it seem like y'all didn't really feel anything and just kind of wrote it off. And she was like, what led to y'all being serious at that point? Olandria then states that she just came back from Casa Amor, and like I just stated, she felt like she owed that respect to Sierra and Taylor, which is why she kind of wrote it off. But she stated that it just didn't feel right. Even if there was a spark, she tried to deny it just to spare Sierra, which, again, just goes against the mean girl narrative that y'all want to pursue and push when it comes to her. And she was like, I was trying to be respectful. and said that Nick agreed to it too. And Keke started smirking and laughing because it made it seem like what a lot of people stated with Olandria. I forget who asked the question first. I think it was Nick. When they had that conversation and Nick was like, how are you feeling about the night before? And Olandria pretty much was like, yeah, I see what we had going on, but I just don't feel like it's anything more than friends. You can see how Nick just agreed to it. And a lot of people pointed out the fact that it seemed like he just agreed with that because he literally asked her first just to see where her head was at, and he was just going to roll with what she did. Because if she wanted to just be friends, he was just going to do that. So whereas if that question was really asked on his end and he was to give the real answer, it might have been something different. But that's pretty much what Keke was insinuating, and Olandria was laughing too, stating the same thing. But Keke then talks about how it came off like it was just a safe move on both of their ends to pretty much agree to be friends. But Keke then talks about how Sierra was leaving the show with the whole slur comment, and she then asked, "How was it presented to y'all? Did y'all even know what she had said?" Chelley and Olandria both, they didn't know. They didn't know what she had said. Keke ends up asking, like, were there tears that were shed? Like, how did y'all feel? And Chelley was like, I mean, we cried, obviously, because that was our friend. And they were talking about how grateful they were for still being there and the journey's not going to end. And then hours later, they start pulling Sierra from the house. And Keke was like, she was just removed, and that just created space, essentially, for Olandria and Nick to pretty much blossom. And she ends up asking how it's been for you and Nick now being out of the show. And Olandria pretty much states like, we're still in that same place. We decided that we still want to explore. We want to go at this pace, even though we got the pressure just coming out, seeing how much everybody wants us to be together. They just decided to move at their pace and keep it going. No matter what the media is thinking in terms of wanting them to be together, questioning if they're being genuine or whatever, they just want to move at their pace. So Keke then asks if he's told her if he's heard from Sierra yet. And then she mentions how Sierra had unfollowed him, which it seems like, too, from what I saw on social media, she's unfollowed Olandria, too, even though I know Olandria hadn't even followed her at that point, at least from what I remember seeing. But Keke then says this reunion, because Olandria said he hasn't said that she's reached out. So Keke's like, okay, well, then this reunion is going to be looking a little bit, it's going to be looking a little bit interesting. But Keke then says, like, I would imagine seeing all this Nick Olandria stuff and being the favorite couple has her feeling some type of way, which obviously we know it does. But Olandria then talks about how her mom was pretty much telling her how much America loves her and Nick together. And Keke was like, yeah, you weren't lying about your mama, like them genes. Like, it's homegrown. Your mama is fine. And Olandria was like, look, see, I told y'all. But she ends up asking how it was just finally seeing family. And Chelley was like, yeah, we was all emotional, just seeing everybody else's families, seeing our families, because we all thought that they were essentially were going to be on the video cameras like it typically is. But to see them in Fiji, it was just even more special. So Keke then asked them about one thing that they feel like we didn't see that wasn't shown through editing. And Chelley was like the genuine connection. She was like, I feel like we all talked about how well the cast was structured and put together because everybody else's vibes were so great. Olandria agrees about that. And Keke then mentions that when Taylor came straight, when Casa happened, when Olandria and Nick were sent home and then they came back, slept, and then woke up the next day and told everybody, hey, look, we still here. How Taylor went and ran straight to Nick instead of going to Olandria. Olandria was like, I mean, it would have been the same way with the girls. And I'm like, that's not the point, though. The point is how, like, he literally was coupled with you in that moment. Even though he was coupled with Clark, y'all still had an open situation going on. It hadn't been closed at that point. So, like, how were you really feeling seeing that he ran straight to Nick instead of basically running to you and pretty much ignored you at first? But Olandria pretty much stated that it wasn't a shock to her. I'm like, okay, I guess. But we then moved to the girls girl conversation, the topic of the girls girl. And Keke talks about how the concept is being said to have pretty much ruined the show, which it low-key has. And how some are using that term even though they're not really acting or walking by it. Huda. She didn't say it, but I'm saying it. So she then asked, like, what does that term mean to y'all? And Chelley pretty much states, it means any woman walking into any room, I have your back. She was like, she said that there were instances where people would come into the villa and be treated some type of way because of that's how their experience was, which she didn't state it, but I'm going to state it for you. Huda, how she acted when Amaya came in the house, when Iris came in the house, which is just hilarious because she's the main one that was pumping the girls girl shit. She's the main one, which is why Chelley held her accountable, because you're the one talking about, oh, this person ain't a girls girl, this person ain't a girls girl, yet you're the one who's not moving like that. You're the one that's not moving like that. A girl's girl, in my mind, is not going around talking shit about other girls and then sitting up in their face smiling like they're not doing it. That's fake. That's fake. Huda claims how real she is. She's fake. She's fake. Because I guarantee you, she still has not told Amaya to this day that she was talking crazy about her. Crazy about her. And they still, which Amaya's disappointing me. Because, like, I couldn't be around somebody. Knowing that I've been on a show and knowing how that person has been acting, I have to come home and see how they was talking about me before I proceed having a relationship with that person outside in the real world. So for Amaya to not even do that, at least it seems like she hasn't, that's kind of weird to me. But Chelley then states that she would never shun any of the girls coming in because that's their experience just as much as it is hers. And she says just having a woman's back is essentially what it means to her, but her intentions are always going to be to make that woman feel comfortable. But if they start moving shady, she's obviously going to take steps back. Olandria agrees on that. We then move to Huda acting a fool in that heartbreak challenge. Keke ends up asking, like, what did we see that led to you what did we not see that led to you really being upset, which we all know. But Chelley said, like, I haven't seen the episode, so I don't really know what was even shown, what would make anybody believe that I was in the wrong or like I was wrong. And Keke said what we all was stating, at least those of us that have a brain and actually can think and have our own thoughts without having it be informed on the internet. You was not wrong. That's what Keke said. You were not wrong. And she wasn't. I will stand on that. I will stand on that to the day I die. I literally stated it the day of the episode, and I still feel that same way. She was not wrong. She was not wrong. It's like, put yourself in her shoes. Put yourself in her shoes and tell me that you wouldn't be upset either. But Chelley then says, like, she was wondering what we saw that made her out to be wrong. But Keke says, ain't nobody really saying you can't have fun. You just went overboard and weren't really thinking about how I would feel in reference to that. And you had no regards to my feelings, talking about Chelley basically not having her feelings being valued when it came to Huda, who wanted everybody to think about her feelings when it came to shit. And it's just like, that's what it is. And Chelley said that. Like, that's literally what it is. And it's just like, it goes back to hypocrisy. Because it's like with Huda, you want people to treat you a certain way, but you have no problem doing them dirty. That's just really what it all comes down to. But Keke then says, like, I wouldn't go for that just for validation. Like, I wouldn't do all that stuff just to have a moment and not consider my friends or how my homegirl would feel about that. That's what a real girl's girl is. But Keke then says that she was walking around on eggshells watching how Huda was acting with Jeremiah. Like I said, the night of the episode 13, I think it was when it dropped, and I still said it to this day, I felt uncomfortable myself watching how Huda was walking around that villa, just polluting it, having everybody on that show uncomfortable. And it's like, if I felt that watching it through a TV at my house in North Carolina, not even in Fiji, how do you think those people in that villa felt? So for people to get online and try and perpetuate that they were bullying that girl after that girl basically was bullying them, if you want to keep it real, she was bullying them. They were in a closed-in environment where they could not move, could not leave, and you got somebody around here with all this negative energy. That is, if you want to call it bullying, that's what shit, you're bullying my energy. My energy is trapped with your negativity. I can't get out of that because you're literally around this villa just bringing all that negative energy. So who wouldn't grow sick of that? Like, who wouldn't? But Chelley was like, nobody was really looking at her and Jeremiah like that. We knew y'all was so locked in. Nobody was really trying to infiltrate that. So I just didn't get it. But Keke ends up asking Olandria, like, what was your take on that? And Olandria says, like, I haven't seen it either, but I feel like Chelley had every right to be upset. And Huda pretty much agreed that she did as well, and stated that she took it too far and was basically to the point where she was apologetic and basically seeming like she was regretful for doing what she did, which is, I'm glad it was said here and said before Huda's interview came out, because Huda basically contradicted herself yet again. We all know because we all saw it on the TV show, which is why I'm baffled as to how people still sit on the internet and defend Huda like Huda didn't even state her own damn self that she was wrong. And y'all still get online and still back her for that shit. But Huda then went on her confessional and to call her dangerous. Yes, call her dangerous, not call her daddy. And to call her dangerous interview, because both of them are dangerous people, basically contradicting what she did and said. Like, it's crazy to me. It proves every single day that she's a liar. She is a liar. But Chelley then states that she's always going to put her girl's feelings first and won't jeopardize it for a challenge. She was like, I never kissed Jeremiah because I knew how intensely passionate Huda was for him and how her feelings were for Jeremiah. So I never was going to do that to her. And for it to not be reciprocated, that's why I didn't understand it. which, I mean, duh, valid. But Keke validated Chelley's feelings. Chelley said, like, I was just literally sitting there watching the whole time, like watching how she was doing all that shit with Ace. I was sitting right there next to you watching it. It's not like I wasn't there looking at it. Like, I literally had a front row seat, so obviously I'm gonna feel some type of way about it. But Keke then brings up how the two of them, talking about Olandria and Chelley, had received so much criticism when it came to that stand on business shit. And Chelley was like, yeah, the think pieces and stuff, y'all literally got 1 hour out of 6 hours of them, because they filmed that entire stand on business challenge for 6 hours. Y'all got 1 hour of this, and y'all are giving us all this criticism when I could care less, because everybody that was in the villa were on the same page leaving it. So they all felt like everybody was just speaking their truth, being real, and nobody walked away from that conversation feeling like anybody was being mean, or everybody felt like just we all were being real. The only person I felt like wasn't being, well, yeah, I would say, yeah, they weren't being, I don't feel like anybody was being mean. Even though Austin and Ace and Zach piling onto Amaya, I don't think it was mean. I just think it was rude. But was it real? Yes, it was real. They all were keeping it real with her. They were stating their real feelings and their real thoughts to her. Do I like the way that it happened? Hell fucking no. Because a bunch of men piling up on a woman about how she is and who she is as a person, yes, that's fucked up. That is fucked up. I don't agree with that at all. But they were keeping it real for once. Ace is the only one that kept it real the whole time. Zach was fake. Austin was fake, which is why I got on here and really gave them the truth. Because Austin was phony. He could have said that shit to her a long time ago when she asked him, as could Zach have. So that's why they got most of the heat from me. Ace pretty much just reiterated the same thing he already said, which wasn't necessary in that moment because you already said it to her. You didn't need to say it again. But the whole gist of the matter is they all were being real when it came to their feelings, finally, which is why it was called Stand on Business. So why are y'all mad that people are standing on business when, like, what? That's the whole point. But Keke then says that people also have to remember, too, that these are human beings. Like, we're commenting on things that are happening on the show, but y'all need to realize, too, that these people are human beings. You can have nuanced conversations without going too far. Calling CPS on people, even though we know that was a lie. But even if it was true, that still is wrong. Calling CPS, just doing stuff like that is unnecessary. It is unnecessary. And they both agreed to what she stated, which is just interesting seeing how they actually can denounce certain shit like that, whereas the other one gets online and perpetuates more of that shit. It's just crazy. It's crazy. But Chelley then says that she just doesn't stand for any of the hate, especially considering the fact that nobody on the cast hates each other. So she's like, at this point, why are y'all literally spewing so much hate towards people that y'all don't even know, when the people that actually were around these people don't even have that hate for them? Exactly. But Keke then states, all it is sharing opinions, and neither of the three of them wish harm on anybody. But Keke ends up asking if they've spoken to Sierra. Olandria said, I got to check my DMs because Sierra don't have my number yet. But Sierra has reached out to Chelley. Chelley says that she's spoken to her. She's pretty much stated that she misses them. She hates what's happening, wants to do better for herself, and she wants to extend those apologies to everybody. But Chelley says like she's trying her best to give her grace because they're all human beings, and she wishes she wouldn't wish any of that hate on anybody. Which again is just interesting seeing how Chelley yet again continues to extend more and more grace to people when other people can't do that for her. It's just crazy. It's wild. But Keke says accountability, that's just a big part of it. Basically, own up to it, learn from it, and move on. And she was like, it's an opportunity for other people out here to learn, which it is, because as we all saw when everything came out, a lot of people did not know the term that Sierra had used was offensive. I was one of the people that knew it was offensive, but a lot of people did not know that, which, as Keke said, this is a learning opportunity for people. So take it and learn from it. But Keke, she then mentions how Olandria had told Huda pretty much not do that in the second episode. I vividly remember it. And she was like, I live for you doing that, because it was like, I don't need pity from you. Like, this is not a moment where I need sympathy or anything. It's not that big of a deal. And Keke said, so for then people to then turn around and make you out to be the bad guy, stating like this happens so often when it comes to black women on TV. They feel like they have to tone down things because they're a black woman, because little things that they state that other people will state gets blown up because they are black. And that is, I remember vividly talking about that on episode 2. And I remember how that's when it all started with the whole mean girl shit that was labeled on Olandria. It was Olandria at that moment. It didn't get to Chelley until the stand on business shit. But I remember getting on here like, what are y'all talking about? How is that mean girl? How is that Mean Girl when she just literally told her don't do too much? And we could tell Huda, and I knew in that moment, my first intuition never lies. It never did. I knew who Huda was in that second episode. You look at go back and rewatch it now. People were sitting there trying to say, oh, well, she didn't mean anything by it. She did. Because you go back and look at how Huda was acting. I feel like y'all need better men. As she's sitting there with the man that is not her man now. Y'all just need better men. Y'all just need better men. But the two people that need better men are actually outside with men that won't put them first. Y'all need better men. You sit and look about that. She felt like she was like, I got the man that I want, but these two dark-skinned black women are sitting here with nobody. So y'all need better men, because I'm just not used to seeing y'all with better. Come on. Let's keep it real. We got to keep it real at some point. But Olandria then says it's just exhausting. Like, me and Chelley had to tone it down because people that look opposite of us can do all of this stuff, get catered to, but when it's us, it's not extended. Just like, I'm glad they said it. Everything that I said throughout the season just continues to get brought back up. Them not getting extended grace, like I said the night that everybody and their mama tried to label them as bullies and mean girls. Like I said, y'all don't extend them the grace that y'all extend to other people. And it's crazy to me. But Keke then mentions how, like, multiple seasons we've seen, and even on this one, people getting cussed the fuck out. Like, getting cussed all the way out. And Olandria was like, yeah, now let that have been me and Chelley doing that. Like, what did I say? Like, it's crazy. But Chelley then says, like, it's crazy because everybody in that villa came to us for advice. Came to Chelley and Olandria asking for advice because we are the most level-headed. We're the most warm. People feel comfortable coming and talking to us. So for us to get out and see that we're being labeled as mean girls is weird. And it is weird. Like, it's weird. It's weird. And it coming from black people, too. It's like you can expect it from certain people. When it comes to white people, when I say white people, the racist ones, the one that are truly racist, they can't hide it when certain things like this happen. But with me saying that too, I've seen a lot of white people that have a brain in their head that's working, that are speaking out against that shit, which I appreciate those people. Those are allies. Those that see it for what it is and use their voice to denounce it. Y'all are the people that we're talking about. Y'all are the good people. The racist people and then the coons out here that are literally perpetuating stereotypes that y'all know are dangerous when it comes to black people, black women, black men. It's wild to me. That's why I get on here and just be going off. But just for them to be painted as mean girls when we know that's not the truth is crazy. And Keke said it for what it is subtle microaggressions. And she was like, just because I'm stern in my convictions, I'm very firm with what I'm stating, doesn't mean you have to be scared of me. It's like, because I'm in this black skin, that's what's scary to you is weird. And it is. And it becomes anti-black, which is what she stated. But Keke then says, like, you just can't get out of the skin that we're in. And if me being black is scary to you, then that's a problem for you. But Olandria then states that nobody else would have gotten that backlash, which is true. But Keke then asks, like, how do y'all tell other black women that come on the show to prepare for shows like this? And Olandria was like, I mean, I don't know. There's not really any ways that you can really prepare for it. And Chelley said the best way, you just got to be yourself, because regardless, there are going to be narratives that are going to be pushed on you, which is the truth. Whether it's true or not, being a black woman, being a black man, there are certain narratives that are going to be pushed on you that would never be pushed on somebody else. And that's just what it is. You just have to come on the show, be who you are, know that you left the show being who you are, and know who you are as a person at the end of the day. People going to say whatever they want to say about you. People get in the comments with me and say stuff about me all day, every day. Do I care about what you got to say? No, because I'm 29, almost 30 years old. I know who I am as a person, so there's not much anybody can say about me that's going to make me question who I am as a person. I know who I am, and that's all you really can do. You have to know who you are, and when you put yourself out in these spaces, in public spaces, on TV, put myself on YouTube, you have to be strong enough to know who you are as a person, know that there's going to be somebody out here that's going to say something to you to try and hurt you. You just have to know who you are at the end of the day, and that's all that matters, is knowing who you are, because the people that know who you are and know your heart, that's all that matters. That's all that matters. So I'm glad Chelley said what she said. But Keke says essentially y'all can't win for losing, because one minute people say Olandria is super stoic and like this, and then they think that you're fake. But then whenever you have a moment where you're keeping it real, for real, then you're doing too much, which is so true. I'm glad she said it, and I'm going to call out the people that did it. There's this one white girl that's on TikTok. I can't remember her name. She's blonde. Y'all probably saw how she talks about how Huda, even though Huda might be doing certain things, she's real. She's not super stoic and super poised. Winter Blanco got on her podcast and talked about how Olandria is so she's posing and stuff. No, maybe she just has good posture. Ever thought about that? Like, are you trying to perpetuate stereotypes? Like, it's at the point where somebody can't have poise and be real and authentic. It's like they expect her to be something different because she actually moves and has good posture, and it's weird. It is weird how people have such a microscope when it comes to black women. It's extremely weird to me. But Olandria was like, what the fuck? Like, I'm literally sitting here just existing. And Keke was telling them again, like, I want to reiterate to y'all again how well y'all did representing us. But she then moves to asking about how they felt about the Huda and Jeremiah shit. They stated everybody essentially was tired, like, because we didn't come here for that. Like, we didn't come here to be y'all's therapist, basically is what they were stating. And Chelley was like, just the pace of their relationship, it just moved too fast, which is what we all have said. But Chelley then asked where Olandria stands with Clark. She mentions how some of those moments where Clark would be mumbling stuff under her breath, which she did. Like, I really like Clark now. But in those moments, I told y'all, like, there's little certain things that she did that was just kind of like, what is the point in that? And Olandria said that she was noticing it. She was like, there was never really any shade on my end when it came to her. So she was like, I was kind of wishing that she was a mean girl for real, so I could really give it to her. But she said Clark was such a nice girl. She was a genuine girl. So she had no choice but to really be nice to her, because at that point, like, she is a good person at the end of the day. Clark did do certain things, but you can tell Clark is a good girl. Like, the things that a lot of people wanted to really push on Clark, somebody else is moving like that outside of the building. Y'all know who I'm talking about. I don't have to say it, but y'all know. But when she said that whenever she got out of seeing the face, when she got out and saw the faces and the stuff, the mocking and stuff that Clark was doing at the very beginning, it kind of threw her off because she was never on that with her. And Keke was like, yeah, it kind of got a little bit competitive. And Olandria said, there's no competition here. Keke's reaction had me dying because Keke about fell over the couch. But Olandria said that she mentions how she felt. Y'all remember what I said this, which is why I feel like Taylor also really knew why he didn't want to be with Olandria. She says, my presence is intimidating to men and women. Like I told y'all, Olandria moves and is so poised that it intimidates certain people, especially when it comes to men. Men that are not men for real, like they're boys, they're not going to feel comfortable wanting to really be with a woman like Olandria because she already comes so well put together that it could be intimidating to them. Like, if it's not a girly girl, like a youthful type of girl, somebody that don't really seem like she's all the way ready to be in a serious relationship, that's an easier one to go for instead of somebody like Olandria who is really put together. That can be intimidating to certain people, and that's what she stated. Because it's just funny because I said it all season. I love being validated when I come to my thoughts. But Keke then says, like, it's your measurements too. And Olandria was like, yeah, it's all natural. No shade to anybody, but y'all sitting out here comparing me to other people, compare me to the real natural one, which is true. Because y'all saw, if you've been on TikTok, you've seen the edits where they're comparing her and Huda, which, like she said, she's natural. Olandria is all natural. The body's natural, the face is natural. All of that is natural. No shade to Huda, but Huda is not the same Huda that she was born to be. And I'm not stating that she's not a woman. She is a woman, but she has had enhancements. Not saying it's bad, but if y'all gonna compare Olandria's natural self, you need to compare it to Huda's natural self. That's just all I'm gonna say. But Keke ends up asking if there's a friendship, and Olandria said that she never had a problem with Clark. She said that she was just upset with how Taylor wasn't honest with her, which is valid. But she then states that him not finding her physically attractive was never brought to her, because if it was, she would have been okay with just being friends. She would have never tried to force him to be with her, essentially. And she then says, like, he was super complimentary with her, doing all these things for her, being touchy-feely, which, again, like I said, that just proves that none of that shit was shown. Producers were strategically not showing that. But we then move to Brian and Amaya, which is interesting because there's rumors online. Don't know if it's true or not. They're claiming that Brian is cheating on Amaya already. We'll see come the reunion. But they love Amaya. Keke talks about how it was hurting her feelings to see how the guys were treating Amaya, which we all know, we all felt the same way. And Keke says, like, she loved when Brian pretty much allowed her to be herself, stood up for her. And Chelley mentions, like, just coming to that understanding with the both of them being from the same culture, it just made it easy for him to really stand up for her. And she appreciated that too. Keke says she felt like it was a little bit of microaggression in that too, because people weren't really just allowing her to be her and understanding that that was just her nature because that's her culture. That's who she is. And she was happy that the two of them won, knowing that Brian was okay with allowing her to be herself. But Keke then talks about how Chelley was being open with her sexuality. She asked if it was any moment where she was questioning if she'd even bring all that stuff up to people and how people felt about it. And Chelley was like, no, because my family and my parents, they were pretty supportive. They were open with me, allowing me to be open with them about whatever it is. And she was like, at this point, I don't need anybody to really validate anything of who I am. I'm going to be who I am. There's no labels to it. She's just Chelley. And that's the way to think about it. But Keke then says that Ace was pretty much, she knows that Ace was living with her just being who she is and just being authentic, because she knows that Ace loves being authentic and just people that are authentic. And yeah, Chelley validated that too. She was like, Ace just took me for who I am and we're on the same page. She says that he doesn't fetishize it, even though most men typically do fetishize it. And she was like, he's just happy that I'm here for him and want to be with him. But Keke then talks about what was most surprising for them to learn about America when it comes to their thoughts on how the people were while they were in the villa. And Olandria was like, them rankings. When them rankings came out and seeing that Chelley and Sierra were so low, it was a moment where I was questioning. I was like, what are y'all, like, why are they so low? Like, what am I not seeing? And she was like, essentially, she just had to go off of what her girls' words were and how they were acting in the villa. Chelley talks about how Ace being put so low made her question, like, what am I missing? Like, am I missing something? But Keke was like, he was just seeming like he was playing chess, essentially. Like, he was one of the producers because he was just seeing shit and doing shit, looking like he was in Dexter's laboratory. But Chelley was like, it was just funny coming out seeing him as this villain because nobody on the show thought that he was. But Chelley says she just gonna have to watch. But she then says as well that the Islanders pretty much ranked them so high. So for America to be saying things differently, it had them scratching their heads wondering what was being shown. It's the fact that America had a lot of people that were trying to push narratives on y'all. That's just really what it was. Chelley and Olandria had no business being, well, Olandria wasn't, but Chelley had no business being towards the bottom of any of them categories at all. She should have always been in the top 3. But Keke ends up asking how the producers were handling just the response and stuff. And Chelley was stating that they couldn't really be in the know of what was going on with the producer or what was going on outside in the real world. But Keke ends up asking if they felt like people were changing once all of that was being revealed. She mentions how people felt Sierra was so put on, like not really genuine, just coming off like super PR, super like, I'm here, I'm a robot. So they pretty much asked, like, did anybody else feel that way, or feel like, did y'all feel like people were aware of the cameras or aware of what they were doing, aware of trying to win? And they both were like, no, like it just felt like we all were just being ourselves and just being on a family vacation. We kind of forgot that it was a show, even though we all know who the ones that were switching and changing, Zach, Elon. As soon as all that shit changed, they didn't want to start being interested in Amaya. Like, be for real. Be for real. And Olandria mentioned too, like, when I got sent home from Casa Moore, seeing how all the girls are crying and stuff, what made y'all think I was a mean girl? Because if I was a mean girl, why would they all be crying over me? Exactly, Olandria. But they were like, something clearly is not adding up. But Keke finishes with the truth or tea segment where she's asking a bunch of like spicy questions where they can keep it cute, spill the tea, or phone an Islander to spill the tea for him. There's a couple questions I wanted to talk about. Who got a better edit than deserved? They didn't want to answer it. Huda was clearly the answer, but Olandria threw that question to Chelley. Chelley ended up stating that she's going to phone an Islander. She calls Ace, and we all thought Ace probably was going to tell the truth, but Ace went around it. Keke was like, so I'm guessing you mean Jeremiah. We all knew that's probably what Ace wanted to say, but we didn't get to the top 3 kissers. Chelley said it was her first, and then Chelley was stating Ace 3 times. And then Olandria's like, that's not fair. You got to say somebody. So she said Ace, Sierra, and then there was nobody else that really stood out to her, but she eventually came around to Chris. Olandria said Nick, Ace, and Jeremiah. Keke ends up talking about how much she liked Jeremiah and felt like she was sad when he left, which I feel like I want Jeremiah on Love Island Games, and I feel like they're probably going to put him on there because he got done wrong. Like, he deserves a second chance to actually find love, and putting him on Love Island Games is what is needed. I just hope they don't bring Huda, but y'all already know I wouldn't be shocked if she's on there if she is single during that time, which she probably will be. But, if they had to couple up with somebody in the final week, who would it have been? They say you messy, and she is for that. But Olandria said Chris. They asked, she ends up asking, do they think that Huda had a reasonable response to the Stand on Business challenge? Chelley said no, because the explanation didn't make sense, and it didn't. And she said it would have been better to just apologize because you saw how you hurt my feelings. You want everybody else to validate your feelings. Why can't you validate mine in the moment? And she was like, at that point, it would have just been better to just apologize instead of trying to get me to understand your perspective. Olandria agrees, and Keke wraps it up, giving them their flowers. Like I said, this was a good little interview, a good little conversation, if you want to call it what it is. But yeah, it wasn't too many messy questions per se. It just was a moment for them to actually talk to somebody that could understand them as a black woman. So I appreciated that for what it was. Y'all let me know what y'all's thoughts are. Please drop it down below in the comments. Subscribe if you're new. We are on the road to 15K. We're really, really close to 12K. So let's do that. Thumbs up the video. Do that free of charge. Let's try and get what we got on the last one. I think we got 1.8 thousand likes on it. On the last one, let's do it here. Share the video. I don't think there's anything else that's going to come out to make me want to do a recap, but I might do it since y'all like it. So if it's something that I really am interested in and y'all want to know, let me know. I might pay attention to it and see what's up. But yeah, I'm going to see y'all, if I don't, on August 25th when we do the reunion. But yeah, I think this is going to be the last Love Island video I do for a while, at least until then. Because if you don't already know, I'm going to be going out of the country from Saturday till the following Sunday for my birthday. So I'll see y'all then. But yeah, peace.